Hello everyone and welcome to the Prim Stitch Along Block 2, the basket block. My name is Jennifer Long. I'm the machine embroidery manager at Riley Blake Designs, and I am so excited to be stitching along with you in my home studio, Block 2, the basket block inside the Prim Stitch Along. Today we're going to work through this block together, doing color changes, learning about some of the design elements, and some little bits of tips and tricks behind the scene. I can't wait to begin with you stitching the Prim block. If you missed block 1, which is the flag block, you can go ahead and look on our Riley Blake Designs blogs for all the links and also the YouTube channel and catch along with this block. Also, don't forget the Ready Set video where you can learn how to get everything set up for your Prim stitch along. All right, let's begin together. Just to make sure we have everything in place, let's just go over the things we need before we start stitching. So I have my instructions sheet for the basket hoop 2. I have both sides of it here. It's a two-sided, page 19 and page 20. I have my pre-cut fabric as well as my block label in there. I have my fused background fabric here. I have my correct size hoop. I have a couple of notions that I'm going to need, all my thread colors, and I've already put them in the order that they appear. My fabric, I have my iron and my Jill Lily pressing pad, and then of course I have my Cute Cuts Trim It ruler to the size that I am working on. I have my machine set up, and I have the USB put inside and pulled up to basket hoop 2. Just to reiterate, you're going to choose the size that you are stitching. So your stitchable area that you have inside of your hoop. I'm doing the wall quilt 6x10 stitchable area, and make sure I have that one pulled up on my machine. And just for quick reference, again, you can always go to the front of the pattern to see what these are, but here's all of the different stitches and the names of them. All right, let's get started. So starting with this first step, there's not a number 1 here yet, it's the hoop step. What we're going to do is we're going to take our hoop and we're going to layer it as shown. So we're going to hoop the fused fabric, PP, and 1 layer of heavy tearaway stabilizer so that all 4 sides of fabric and stabilizer are secured in the hoop. All right. So I have my stabilizer behind me right here, and I have my fabric. So stabilizer on the bottom, heavy tearaway, and I have my fused fabric on top. I'm just going to make myself a little bit more room here, and I'm going to open up this hoop and place this down on top. Now we don't want to pull, but we do want to make sure that all 4 sides are going to be caught nice and evenly in here. And we're going to place the hoop in at the top. Once it's in, I'll just tighten it up. All right. So it's not pulled tight, it's just nice and strong and firm. All right, so starting on step 1 here is a placement stitch, and this is so we're going to stitch out in any thread color. There is no thread at the bottom, so I'm just using a neutral thread color that won't show through, and I'm going to stitch out step 1 here so we know where to place our tack down. This is called the placement stitch, and we'll get started. I'll insert my hoop. Excellent. So you won't have to take it out each time. I did actually do it in a very neutral color, but you can see where it is here. And we are going to just take this fabric U. So this is my fabric U here. I'm going to take that and place it right on top. Now we have a nice big 1/2 inch on all 4 sides, and that is on purpose. That's so when that you are pulling it to trim that you do have enough. Don't try to put it too close to the edge here, and then you're going to be stuck just trying to pull a tiny piece of fabric. So this is going to give you best results if you place it right in the center of your trimmed fabric there. and go ahead, put it back in the machine and stitch out number 2, which is a tack down step. You're going to see on this step that it actually says place the fabric right side up. The reason why it says that here, because sometimes we do a stitch and flip and you would have to do it right sides down, but we want the fabric right side up, just as shown in the center of that piece. And we're going to go ahead and stitch the tack down stitch, which you will notice when it's stitching is 2 lines of stitching. And we'll talk about that as soon as it comes out of the machine. All right. All right, so at Riley Blake Designs, we always do 2 layers of stitching here. So one on the outer and one just slightly on the inner. And that is so when you are trimming your fabric with your curved applique or embroidery scissors here, that if you accidentally trim that first stitch, you do have that second stitch inside. So it'll still stay nice and firm and pulled where it needs to be. Again, you have lots of extra here to hold on to, and I'm going to put it flat on my table, which gives me the most control. And because I'm right-handed, I want to turn this way, but each time I cut, I'm going to continue to turn my hoop around. So if you're left-handed, you're going to do it in the reverse order. And I'm just going to pull it just ever so slightly so I can get nice and tight into those stitches. And the closer you are to your first line of stitches, the better results you'll have. So we're going to do that. And then you won't have any little threads popping out. On Lori Holt's designs, we do a nice, juicy cover stitch here of Lori's that is, it really covers up all of those threads and it actually mimics the fabric. So it's really fun and exciting, quite beautiful, and it gives you a lot of coverage there as well. But you do want to try and get as close as you can. All right. Next up is that was the trim step that we just trimmed here. Again, there was no number, it was not a machine step, and no thread. Number 3 is another placement stitch. So you still don't need to put any specific thread color in, but you're going to do a placement stitch so we know where to put the next fabric. So let's go ahead, put that in our machine, and stitch out step 3. So here's step 3's tack down, and you can see it's the part of the little basket here that we have. And so now you're going to take your fabric JJ, place your fabric right side up for the tack down stitch. Now, a couple of tips and tricks for this one. This is a gingham, and it depends how you feel, but this gingham, I would like to make sure that it's lined up with the top. So I don't want it to like twist it. I mean, you can do it however you want. I'm going to make sure that mine is lined up with the top. Even though there will be a cover stitch on the top that's going to cover it over, I do want to make sure that I have it lined up. So what I'm going to do is fold it over so I have it lined up and I know that it's straight and nice and even. I'm just going to check that here in the line, and then I'm going to flip it over. And you can use a piece of washi tape if you want to on top of it or in the corners, but I will just be very careful and make sure that mine's not moving here. I'm just double checking again, hoping to get it nice and even and straight. And I'm going to put it back in the machine for number 4, which is that tack down stitch, the 2 rows around. All right. Okay, excellent. So it did those 2 rows around again, all the way around. And we do have that nice 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch around every side to be able to trim it. Again, I want to place it on a flat surface using my curved applique embroidery scissors. I am going to come as close as I can and just give it a gentle pull. Turn my hoop and continue along. I'm just going to take my hand and make sure any threads aren't coming off. All right, because we're about to get into this. Yay, yay. All right, so that was our trim step. So we have done the first row and completed the second row with the trim step. Now we are heading into the decorative stitches that are happening, and there's a couple of different ones that we're doing here. We are going to start with step number 5, which is a cover stitch, and we are doing that with thread number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and change my thread color on the machine and stitch out number 8, and you're going to see where it comes over here, both for the stems and for the top. Excellent. Now you can leave it in your machine and just simply change to the next color, but I'm going to take it out and show a couple of things. So if you have your jump stitches set to trim on your machine, then you can just go ahead and move to the next color. I purposefully did not so that I could show you what to do at each step, that there could be a jump stitch. So if there's a jump stitch here, I'd like you just to clip it on one side and clip it to the next piece, both on the front, and it's nice if you do that on the back as well. And then that way you kind of keep your back of your project nice and clean. You don't need to pull on them. We just don't want to have anything caught at the back. So just keeping the back of the project nice and clean as well. And just trim those on both sides. Excellent. All right. So I'll turn that over again, and here we go. Now I'm going to change my thread color and move over to step number 6. This is going to be using the fill stitch thread color 13, and we're going to do the 2 flowers with that stitch. All right, look how cute it's coming together. Oh my goodness, so much fun. So if you have your jump stitch already trimming, then that's wonderful. If you don't, this is the time to do it. So we've just finished step 6, cleaning up the back of our design. Moving on to a detail stitch, which is step number 7 on your machine and thread number 5. This is going to be the center of your daisy flowers. Now, aren't these adorable how the thread has kind of given it like a burst look? So I'd love for you to just take a moment and just really enjoy the texture of that embossed stitching and the mimicking of the fabric as we go through our thread work together. So we're moving on to the detail stitch, thread number 5 on step number 7. So in order to give your design and your thread changes the best possible movement, we are doing the beak and the legs together. You're going to see there is a running stitch that connects them together, and that's going to get hidden in a future step. But we do have a couple of jump stitches here that if you need to trim them, now is the time. So you're going to go ahead and do those. And we really try to be aware when we are working with our projects at Riley Blake Designs that you have the least amount of thread color switches to help you with speed, but also just to help you with like the flow of the design. Some is going from this corner to the other corner, so you really have like a nice even spread of how you're working in your hoop. So the compensation and pull is nice and even as you're working. And I'm just going to trim on the back here. Great, all those extra threads. Perfect, so keep it nice and clean. Love it. All right. So what number we're on right now is number 8. Step number 8 on our machine and 8 on our instructions. And this is a cover stitch. This is actually the handle that's coming across, and it's going to feel like it's maybe unfinished, but don't worry. It's going to sort of mimic that crow's body, and then the crow is going to cover it over. So you're going to see that it's going to run through underneath that crow again, and not to worry about that at all. We'll get it all covered in future steps. So right now we're looking for thread number 14 on step 8. All right, because there's nothing for me to trim here after step 8, I'm going to leave it in my machine, and you can just take a moment and really enjoy all the different types of stitches that we have happening and all the different process that we have. And so we have different covered stitches, we have different embossed stitches, and all the different looks that are happening through all of the thread work. It's so fun and enjoyable to watch. Next up, we're moving to step 9, which is the number 15 thread. This is going to be the whole crow's body. And instead of putting a piece of fabric down and doing just a lot of heavy stitching, we have a great design that gives a really lovely feathery look, mimicking Lori Holt's Be in My Bonnet fabric that you're going to see and notice in step 9. So let's switch our thread to thread 15 and stitch out this next fill stitch. Oh my goodness, wasn't that such a fun stitch out to watch? It's adorable, and it gives kind of a gorgeous feathered texture on that bird. So much so that I just want to show it to you just so you can see how adorable that is. Oh my goodness, so fun. All right, next up we are stitching step number 10 with thread 16. This is going to go on either side of the berries, and it is going to be thread. So it is going to be a fill stitch with thread, again with a texture to it, opposed to using fabric. So you're going to go on both sides, and it is going to come around on both sides. So we're going to use step 10 on our machine, thread number 16. All right, so you can see how great detail that it made on step number 10, and it filled in 2 berries on either side of the main berry. I'm just going to go ahead and switch my thread color here to thread number 17 to do step 11. So we're going to do the cover stitch on the center berry with step number 11, thread 17. Okay, wow, isn't that a fun stitch? I feel like taking it out and showing it to you again because it's just so much fun. Look at those cute berries in there. Okay, this design is really, really coming together. Next up is step number 12, and here we're doing a detail stitch. So this is all of the leaves, and we are going to be using thread number 7 for that detail stitch. It's going to do leaves on both of the orange flowers and then on top of the strawberries as well. So let's get started with this one. And just like that, all of the greenery is stitched Ta-da! Oh my goodness, that is so, so fun. It really has depth now. And because of the way that the stitching is lined over top and the density of it, it's just really feeling like there is a lot of depth between the fabric and the different types of stitching. All right, if you didn't trim your jump stitches there, you will need to do them here. So that's what I'm going to do with you, both on the front side and on the back side. And then we are going to move on to the next side of our page. How exciting is that? All right, I'm just going to make sure I trim them on the back as well. You don't have to, but I just like to keep a really clean space on the back. Okay, there we go. Yay, so much fun. All right, moving this over to the other side, we are just on the last row and a bit of what we have left to do. So we have step number 13. So 13 on your machine, we are using a fill stitch on thread color 18. So this is the thread color 18. It's going to match that little basket, and we're going to load it up, and we're going to get stitching the edges of this basket together. Okay, so we just finished step 13, which is the cover stitches, the fill stitch on either side of the basket. And now we are moving over to the fill stitch on step 14 on your machine. And this stitch is going to be in actually thread color 14 as well. So step 14 in thread color 14, we're going to switch to this thread color, and it's going to do the top, beautiful edging on the top of the basket as well as the bottom there. All right, so let's get that switched. Okay, so exciting. Now we are moving on to step 15. But first, I want to take a minute and just show you how cute that is. Oh, wow. Isn't that just beautiful texture and design? And it's really balancing out with the whole basket throughout the design. If you have jump stitches that you need to trim, now is your time to do it, to pull all those jump stitches out. If your machine did it before, then that's great. You'll just want to get them off on the front and the back if this is, if your machine doesn't trim your jump stitches for you. All right, step 14 is finished. We are moving on to step 15 here, and we are going to move on to step 15 with our brown color 12. So the same color that we used before for our crow, but this time we're using it for 2 stars, both on either side of the flowers here and just the outside points. So I'm going to go ahead and change our thread color to thread number 12. Okay, so let's take this out, and if you need to cut that jump stitch, you can cut that now, but look how great and balanced this is starting to come, this design. I wanted to point out a few things. So look at the gorgeous design that you just did in thread opposed to in fabric or quilting, but I just wanted to show you this star is just straight, and then this is just turned on point. It's actually the exact same star, but you can see it just looks slightly different, just to give it a little bit of interest. Isn't that so fun? All right, I'm going to cut my jump stitch here on the front and on the back, and then we're going to switch our thread color and do step 16. So step 16 is next, with thread color number 3. And this, again, if you can remember back from block 1, we are going to mimic this fabric in here, this gingham fabric inside of these star blocks with this thread color. It's one of my very favorite steps, and it's going to do both insides of the stars in the gingham with thread number 3. Make sure your machine is set to step 16. Okay, you guys. Oh my goodness. Look, 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 look. Oh, look how exciting that block looks. All right, so I'm going to trim my last jump stitches here. I just swooning over all the different textures that are happening in this adorable basket block from the Prim quilt. This is block number 2, and yes, it is just so exciting. Now there is still one more step here. This is step 17, and it's a really important step. I don't want us to skip over it. This is the crosshairs. Don't worry about stitching over. We're going to stitch over here with a very wide basting stitch. That is super easy to pull out, and you're going to be so happy that you did when you get down here into the setting instructions and what to do with trimming this block. So I'm going to just keep the same thread in here. There is no specific thread color that it needs to be, so I'm going to keep my same last thread color in here. If you really want to be able to see the bobbin thread as well, you're welcome to change the bobbin thread to a colored thread so it's easier to see when you pull it out. But I'm going to leave it just as the thread settings are, and I'm going to stitch out 17, which is the crosshair trim step. All right, so let me just show you that crosshair there. You can see it's very faint. It's a nice big basting stitch coming across right here. This is the exact center of your block, and it's going to come in really handy as we go through the final steps on this pattern on how to prepare this block for our later setting on this stitch along. All right, so number 1 is remove the block from your embroidery hoop. So you're going to want to release your hoop and remove it from the hoop. You can set your hoop away. Here we go. Now, step number 2 is carefully tear away the stabilizer. So I'm going to come on over to the back, and I'm going to show you a couple of tips and tricks, and maybe even some tools on how to do this with ease. So the first thing I'm going to do is just tear into the center, and I'm going to place my hand on the stitches. Again, I have it flat on a hard table so that they come away easy, and I'm going to press my finger along the stitches as I pull so that I'm not just ripping and tearing through all of the stitches. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave anything in the middle just there and kind of rip across to the next edges. And I just want to pull as much of the edge as I can off by hand, just like this, but don't worry too much yet about getting into the small center pieces. We'll do that with a couple of different tools in a little bit. Next up, I'm going to use 2 tools. So I can either use this little stiletto, this Riley Blake Designs cute little bluebird stiletto, and I can get into any of these really small pieces. You can see how easy it just kind of comes in there and just pushes through, and I can pull through it like that. Another tool that you can use is a quilty hemostat. So it's really great for just kind of getting underneath inside of these pieces and then just pulling out the long pieces. You can see how it kind of grips. It has a blunt edge as well. And so it just depends on what kind of tool you like to use. It's really good for some of those long, narrow spaces inside there, just to kind of pull and ease it out. Okay, so once we have all of that torn, I'm going to get rid of all these little pieces, and we're going to follow the next step. Next, we're going to place this block face down on a Jill Lily Studio press-it pad and gently press the back with a warm iron with no steam. So let me just talk you through that. The reason why we want to press it face down on a soft pad like this Jill Lily pad is because this is really, really dense, and we don't want to destroy or flatten out any of this stitching that we just worked on. So we're going to keep all of that gorgeous stitching by placing it face down here, and instead of pulling the iron, we're not going to use steam, we're just going to press it down on top and then lift and press it down on top and lift, and just slowly work your way through the whole design until you've flattened out and pressed the whole thing. All right, and just finish up the last areas, and I'll move that away. Okay, it's really coming together. This is the part that you are going to be just so happy that you stitched out those crosshairs. So step number 4 is you're going to center the crosshairs of your block using your appropriate size Lori Holt Cute Cut Trim It ruler. Which Cute Cut Trim It ruler should you use? There is a chart at the bottom of every single block, and this shows you the basket block size trim size. So this is what you want to trim before you put it into the quilt. This includes your 1/4 inch seam allowances that we're going to use when we are stitching it into our block. So we have a wall quilt, the lap quilt, and the throw quilt. I'm doing the wall quilt 6 by 10, so I am to use the 6.5 by 6.5 Trim It ruler. Now, the one thing you get to do is line up the center of this block. So I just want to show you here, you can see how there's nice crosshairs right into the ruler along with a teal seam allowance. That's going to really help you to fussy cut this block. So using those crosshairs as a guide, I line them up exactly with the crosshairs of this, and I can just do a double check with that seam allowance that none of my block is going to get into the seam allowance. So you're actually going to have, when it's finished and stitched, it's going to be on the part that's clear, not on the part that is blue. Once you have it there and you checked twice, measured twice before you cut here, then you're going to just cut your block. Okay, and I'm going to rotate it around and do the same thing again. I'm going to line it up, line up my crosshairs, line up my edges, measure twice, and then I'm going to cut my block. Good. And oh my goodness, look how adorable that is. Now you're going to gently remove your crosshair from your block. So you can start at the back if you want and just slowly pull out the back, and it'll just kind of come out pretty easily. Once you pull out the back, you should be able to just easily pull out the top. And because it's a basting stitch, it just comes out easy. Just careful to not pull too hard and distort your fabric or your design, or catch any of your other stitches. All right, it's out. Just one little one there. All right, so here we go. The last step I want you to do is your basket block is complete, but I'd love for you to label it. This is going to make it so easy when you are coming to your last step. So your basket block is complete. I'm going to take this label that we used before for cutting our pieces and just pin it to the back so that when we come along to the end, I will have it ready to go, and I'll know exactly what block it will. I won't be confused at all on which the name of the block is. And here we go. Now, just to have a little bit of fun, let's take our last block and this block and hold them up together. Look how cute they are side by side. Good job, everyone. You are doing so well. This is so exciting to see that block come together. Great job, everyone. You just stitched block 2 of the Prim Stitch Along basket block. It is so adorable. I'm just loving on all of the different stitching details that we accomplished today together, the applique, how the fabrics play together, and all of the fun inside this block. Thank you so much for being here. Now, if you are just discovering this stitch along now, don't forget to go back and look at the previous videos and blog posts. We have a blog flag block that we just completed, and you can go and see that one and stitch it along with us. And if you haven't already, do check out the Ready Set video where we show you how to arrange your fabrics, best organization, tips and tricks, and all the tools that you need to have the most success in your Prim Stitch Along. Don't forget to join us over at the RBD and M.E Machine Embroidery Facebook group and share it on social and tag us as well. We cannot wait to see what you are creating with your Prim blocks in the Lori Holt Be in My Bonnet Prim Stitch Along Machine Embroidery. Thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you again for the next block.